7 ways anxiety might be slowly eating away your life. Psychologists believe that anxiety is your body's natural response to stress and that this stress triggers a system in the brain that accentuates your performance. So, a little anxiety now and then is okay and might be your body's way of preparing for an impending change. In this video, we will talk about 7 ways anxiety might be slowly eating away your lives. 1. Overthinking and obsessive thoughts. If you're like most people, then the answer might be closer than you initially realized. When they begin to consume you, they can pose a serious chronic problem. Because overthinking activates the same parts of the brain that are involved in fear and anxiety, psychologists believe people with a history of anxiety disorder are more vulnerable to this state of mind. 2. Lack of self-esteem and fear of rejection. There is nothing more uncomfortable than not being comfortable in your own skin and with the structures that function with you. As elaborate as the gamut of expressions might be, they do not even scrape the surface of trauma and emotional turmoil a person experiencing anxiety goes through. It therefore comes as no surprise that people who struggle with generalized anxiety disorder (GAD) experience heightened levels of low self-esteem. 3. Phobias and traumas. Picture these situations as vividly as you can, as we speak. Take your time and don't rush into them. You can also do them at different times and write down your experiences with each manifested situation. Most of us become anxious when we are forced to face situations that are outside our comfort zone. But most of us are vulnerable to triggers that bring back unwanted thoughts, fears, traumas, and phobias included. These memories can bring back pent-up emotions that have been suppressed for long. They can consume you for no immediate and logical reason. These triggers are enough to let anxiety take over. Before you start looking for treatments, and we don't mean to undermine the effect of medications on anxiety, take a moment to pause. Pause and look at the situation that is causing the anxiety. Is it fear, trauma, or phobia you didn't realize you had or have left unaddressed for long? 4. Workplace anxiety. Too much, too soon. Anxiety and stress go together and can have a far-reaching impact on a person's life. According to a recent journal, panic disorder is the result of anxiety and stress and is characterized by the occurrence of repeated panic attacks. The feeling of intense terror and fear that crops up when triggers strike, and usually out of the blue, makes a person go through heart attack-like symptoms that their body didn't see coming and isn't prepared for. These experiences are very real for the person experiencing them and can happen at any place and at any time. 5. Social anxiety. One of the most detrimental effects of anxiety is its ability to isolate you, triggering feelings that make you feel fearful and unworthy of the company. People with social anxiety might notice their anxiety increase during social interactions, even during times that are enjoyable and positive. Worse still, feeling immobilized and powerless against their feelings, they suffer in silence and avoid situations that bring them in contact with people. Social anxiety, or social phobia as it is sometimes called, is more than being awkward or shy. It is a type of complex phobia that can impair an individual's confidence, mental stability, lifestyle, emotional well-being, and relationships, to say the least. The symptoms might be subtle but can be picked out over time and by observation. People with a social anxiety disorder (SAD) generally experience heightened emotional distress in the presence of people, irrespective of whether they are strangers or loved ones. They can become particularly anxious and stressed out while being introduced to other people, being engaged in conversation, are criticized or judged, driving communication, being evaluated, meeting people of rank, meeting strangers, engaging in romantic relationships. 6. Eating disorder. It is common for people to generalize the contributing factors that lead a person to develop an eating disorder. Their reasoning is often misinterpreted and one-dimensional. Many people are quick to assume that eating disorders are a result of people wanting to chase after the so-called ideal or size 0 bodies. While this can be a contributing factor and needs to be addressed for its detrimental implications, it isn't the only one. Eating disorders can have many causes. It, much like any other mental health issue, can develop due to a gamut of biological and social factors. According to the National Eating Disorders Association, eating disorders can develop through a combination of genetic disposition, types of personalities, and environmental factors. 7. Anxiety and its ill effects on sleep. Anxiety and disturbed sleep patterns are closely linked. People with insomnia, for instance, are at a much higher risk of becoming anxious than those who get a good night's sleep. Likewise, with people who experience chronic anxiety, poor sleep over a continuous period can mess with a person's mind space and emotions. Anxiety itself is associated with sleep disturbances such as reducing the quantity of restorative slow-wave sleep the individual gets each night. Remember that there's always a way out of any anxiety-driven thought and feeling that you might be experiencing. Most importantly, remember that you are not alone. The whole world is waiting to discover and befriend you. All you need to do is meet them halfway.